In 1920, Olive Thomas was in the prime of her life. The 25-year-old silent film phenomenon had over 20 feature films under her belt, had married into a family of Hollywood royalty, and was preparing for a long-awaited vacation with her handsome husband. But on the eve of the happy couple's departure from Paris to London, Olof's apparent bright future took a dark turn within days. Her death had become the first true Tinseltown scandal, and a mystery that endures today. Was it murder or a tragic accident? Though by the time she died, hers was a household name. Olive Thomas had humble beginnings. She was born Oliveretta Elaine Duffy in Caroy, Pennsylvania in 1894. Her parents were working-class Irish Americans carving out her life in the steel town for their 3 children, of which Olive was the eldest. Her father, James Duffy, died in a work-related accident in 1906, leaving the family to gather their scattered lives and moved to Mixed Rocks, where Olive and her brothers lived with their grandparents so her mother Rena could work in a local factory. As was common among working-class families in the early 20th century, Olive left school at age 15. To help support her siblings, she found work at Joseph Horne's department store, where she sold gingham fabric for a wage of $2.75 per week. At age 16, she married Bernard Crew Thomas, a train station clerk, and used her newly married status to gain a clerk job at the Pittsburgh department store. The union between Olive and Bernard was an unhappy one, and they separated in 1913 after just 2 years of marriage. By then, Olof's hopes of finding a comfortable life in Pennsylvania were well truly dashed. She had big dreams of fame and fortune, and knew she needed to chase them. She moved to New York City to live with a family member, and while she was forced to take another retail job to support herself, it wasn't for long. In 1914, she entered and won the Most Beautiful Girl in New York City contest, held by artist Howard Chandler Christie. Overnight, she was among the most in-demand models in the city, posing for some of the most esteemed artists of the day. One of the artists, Harrison Pfizer, wrote Olive a letter of recommendation to Broadway legend Florence Ziegfeld Jr., landing her a coveted spot in Ziegfeld Foley's a series of lavish reviews. She was so popular that by 1915 she'd been recast, and Ziegfeld's more risque and exclusive midnight frolic. She also started an affair with Zeld himself that ended only after he refused to leave his wife, actress Billie Burke, best known as Glenda, the Good Witch of the North. To modern audiences, Olive's time with Ziegfeld drew many interested eyes, including from Hollywood. In 1916, she signed with the International Film Company and made her on-screen debut in a film serial called Beatrix Fairfax. The next year, she appeared in the full-length Paramount drama A Girl Like That. Soon after, she signed with Triangle Pictures, and in true starlet fashion revealed she'd secretly married actor Jack Pickford. The couple met on the Santa Monica Pier shortly after Olive moved to California, and quickly bonded over their love of film and partying. Jack was the younger brother of Mary Ford, a film industry pioneer nicknamed the Queen of the Movies. Jack and Mary's sister L.T.I. was also a successful film star, and together the trio formed an impressive Hollywood dynasty. Although Olive was afraid her marriage to Jack would make others believe she'd found success only because of her proximity to the Pickfords, there was no denying that she was a star in her own right. By 1918, she'd been signed by Snick Pictures Company for a salary of $25.00 a week, and she became the leading lady in films like Upstairs and Down, Love's Prisoner, and Out Yonder. In 1920, she played a teenage girl dreaming of a life beyond her boring town in The Flapper. The film was the first in the United States to portray the flapper lifestyle, and was responsible for bringing the term into the American vernacular. Olive was frequently cast as the girl next door, but in real life she was far from the innocent characters she played on screen. She and Jack were both famous for their hard partying ways. Screenwriter Frances Marion would later say of the couple, they were the gayest, wildest brat who ever stirred the stardust on Broadway. Both were talented, but they were much more interested in playing the roulette of life than in concentrating on their careers. Neither of Jack's famous sisters were particularly pleased with his relationship with Olive, which made account for their secret elopement. Jack was a longtime bachelor before his marriage to Olive, known for his all-American good looks and lavish lifestyle. His penchant for drugs, alcohol, and beautiful women didn't end with his marriage to Olive. When the pair weren't partying together, Jack was entertaining a string of one-night stands and, according to some sources, becoming addicted to heroin. Jack and Olive's marriage was marred by explosive arguments followed by expensive gifts and renewed passions. They juggled hectic film schedules that left them with little time for the travels they discussed early in their relationship. By 1920, their marriage was in tatters, and they decided it was time to rekindle their romance with a second honeymoon in true Jack and Olive fashion. They did not retreat to a sandy beach or a quiet alpine lodge in August. They traveled to the then party capital of the world, Paris. The couple took a suite in the lavish Hotel Ritz, one of the first of its kind, to boast electric lights, telephones in every room, and unset bathrooms. On September the 5th, Olive and Jack hit the town, ripping through Paris's famous nighttime scene with utter abandon. However, these wild parties would be Olive's last. The pair didn't return to their suite at the Ritz until the early hours of Monday, September the 6th. The next time the couple emerged from the hotel, Olive was carried out on a stretcher and taken to the American hospital in Neuilly. Soon little was known of Olive's condition, only that it was reported she was suffering from mercury poisoning. The Ford sisters told the press they'd heard nothing from Jack about it and assumed the lack of news meant it was only a minor illness. Jack was silent on the matter, and reports stated that Olive was being treated by private nurses with little in the way of facts to print. The press devoted columns to speculating about the state of the couple's marriage. Had Olive attempted to take her life? Had Jack taken out a life insurance policy on his wife and then tried to kill her? Olive Thomas died in the early hours of September the 10th, 1920. The gossip that seemed lighthearted while she was in the hospital now turned into chillingly serious theories on what unfolded in her suite at the Ritz. Mary Pickford's ex-husband Owen Moore fielded questions from the press on site in Paris. On behalf of the Ford family, he claimed Olive had been unwell for some time and died of natural causes. He urged the public to respect the family's privacy and refused to share details about Olaf's alleged illness. Unsurprisingly, the press was not interested in a quiet period of mourning. Instead, papers were flooded by supposed first-hand accounts of the couple's final night out in Paris, with claims ranging from a respectable evening of fine dining followed by dancing to Jack and Olive slipping in to see the opium dance. One account even suggested that Olive had drunk bootleg rocket fuel that contained toxic levels of ethanol. Jack Ford gave his account to the Los Angeles Health Examiner 3 days later. According to Jack, the couple had returned to the room at about 3 o'clock a.m. on the 6th, having already booked airfare to London for the next morning. He immediately went to bed. He said Olive stayed awake a while longer to write a letter to her mother. Sometime later, he was awoken by Olive yelling, "My God," from the ensuite bathroom. He claimed he jumped out of bed and rushed to her, and she told him to find out what was in the bottle in the bathroom. Jack found the bottle in question, which was labeled in French and whose contents Olive presumably just consumed. When Jack realized his wife had drunk poison, he said he called for a doctor and began forcing water and egg whites down Olive's throat to induce vomiting. When the doctor arrived, he pumped her stomach 3 times before finally moving her to the American hospital for further treatment. An autopsy seemed to support Jack's claims. Olive had died of acute nephritis caused by mercury bichloride absorption. Her death was ruled an accidental poisoning, and Jack departed Paris with Olive's body, having been cleared of suspicion by police. But the scandal was far from over. Mary Ford claimed the poison must have been left in the couple's bathroom by accident by a maid, but it was soon revealed that Olive had ingested a bottle of mercury bichloride diluted with alcohol prescribed to Jack for topical use. It was obvious why Mary tried to blame the maid. The medicine was commonly used to treat SS caused by chronic syphilis. Few were interested in accepting Jack's version of events. It seemed far-fetched to many that Olive would have mistaken his medicine for a sleeping tonic or something of the like, and with Jack the only witness to her poisoning, it was easy to imagine other scenarios. Had Jack somehow tricked Olive into drinking the poison? Not likely, since he seemed to call for help quickly. He could have just as easily pretended to sleep through the entire ordeal. Had Olive drank the poison on purpose, perhaps after another fight about Jack's infidelity? Olive, dosing herself with her husband's syphilis tonic as revenge for his philandering ways, is certainly poetic, but by all reliable accounts, the couple's marriage really had been in a happy place. When they departed for Paris, perhaps Olive had mixed up the bottles on the bathroom sink after a night of hard partying. Whatever the truth may have been, Jack Pickford's image never recovered from the scandal of Olive's mysterious death. He married twice.